Hello, hi, welcome back to another Walter Scott Prize for Historical Fiction video, in where I am trying to make my way through the long list, giving my opinions as just an everyday reader. I'm no expert on literature, I just enjoy a good story, usually a good Victorian story, but you know, historical fiction as well, I have really got into over the last few years, and I followed the prize for the last couple of years as well. So I have now read my third book from the long list from this year's prize, and the third book I read was Venetian Vespers by John Banville. Can we just first of all talk about how pretty that cover is? Like, not just the colours are really nice, but you know, that nice Venetian sort of landscape in the background there really does kind of set the mood, because it's set in the winter. Is, I believe we're in the last few days of 1899, so we've got the snow falling there, a couple of little gondolas hanging around there, and it really does set the scene for a lot of the story. A lot of the story happens in the space of a few days, and we have a lot of this gloomy, dark sort of scenery showing us the maybe a different side to Venice, that maybe what we used to probably think, you know, sunshine, warm weather, you know, everyone walking around in their t-shirts and shorts, whereas this is a completely different side where people are walking around in coats. It's cold. We get that quite a bit. You know, the main protagonist is cold quite a bit. So Venetian Vespers, as I said, set in 1899, well, the last few days of 1899, and we follow the main protagonist, Evelyn Dolman. And it's in the first person narrative, and I love this narrative. I find it so engaging. Not first person narrative in general, but the narrative in this book. I was gripped. I just wanted to find out what was going on, what was happening next. And yeah, I found it really riveting, mysterious, and a page turner. For me, this is 5 stars. This is, out of the 3 I've read so far, this is my favourite. When I read, especially when I'm reading from the prize, I like to kind of relate how I'm feeling to how I felt in the past reading previous long listees. And for me, the worrying thing is I very much got the feeling I got when I read The First Friend by Malcolm Knox last year, which I loved. It's still one of my favourites from last year, but didn't make the shortlist. Whereas I didn't quite get the feeling I got when I read Hungry Ghosts or The Land in Winter. You know, those books, they gave me almost on a different level, like an emotional response I had with those. I had an emotional response with this, but on a, you know, more of a really enjoyable. I wasn't kind of moved by it, but I don't love it any less. But yeah, that's my only concern. But I do definitely think it should make the shortlist. But whatever I want to make the shortlist never does. The story plotline almost reminded me slightly of The Room in the Dragon Volant, or Volant, by J. Sheridan and the Fanu. I've done a video on that a few years ago. It's one of his short stories, or novellas, I believe, in this same collection as Carmilla, in a Glass Darkly. Yeah, so, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of influence from that. Banville probably didn't have any influence from it at all. But for me, there's some bits of it that are very, not very similar, but just reminiscent of The Room in the Dragon Volant. Which is no bad thing, because that, if you saw my video on that, was my favourite part of In a Glass Darkly. So yeah, we're 1899. We're following Evelyn Dolman. He's recently got married to Laura, who is, or we think that she's wealthy, but we find out that actually her wealthy father, who just passed, just before Evelyn and Laura got married, left all his money to Laura's sister, Thomasina, due to a falling out that Laura and her father had. So we follow Laura and Evelyn going to Venice for their honeymoon, a bit of a delayed honeymoon. And yeah, what transpires in the next few days, it's just a whirlwind. Some parts you can guess, like it builds up to it and you can have a bit of foresight of what's going to happen. Not that it spoils it for me, I don't think. But there is, for me anyway, a lot which happened which did take me by surprise in a good way. Like, I was very pleasantly surprised. It's very much a bit of a mystery going on, a bit sort of like Agatha Christie feels slightly, very slightly. But yeah, the mystery that surrounds what happens to Evelyn. You know, is he going mad? Is he seeing things, or are people playing tricks on him? You know, is it those closest to him, or is it people he's never met? You know, or is he just going mad? But yeah, the story is quite a little bit intricate, but it's just very much just an enjoyable story. You know, as I said, it's not deep like The Land in Winter or Hungry Ghost. It didn't evoke a meaningful emotional response in me. That's probably why I think it may not get the shortlist. But it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it all the same, because as I said, I'm a simple reader, but I love a good story, and to me this was a good story. You know, and it's got some really lovely language in there. You can tell that Banville is a seasoned writer. You know, there's beautiful prose throughout, very descriptive, literary devices used throughout. As I've kind of made it a bit of a staple in the videos I do, I always pick out a little bit when I'm reading that just stands out to me as really nice literature. So, and this is just a short piece that I've got from near the beginning, where we have Evelyn saying, "Did I even have the most distant inkling that already I was lost? No, we blunder blindly, eager as infants, into our worst miscalculations, our most calamitous errors." Hopefully not giving any away of the story there, but yeah, it's just really lovely language, but not overly literary at all. It's very accessible, and that's what makes it, for me, like the full package. Yeah, as I said, the only downside, it reminds me of when I was reading the first friend, how I felt then, like how much I enjoyed that. Although this does have maybe a bit more going for it than the first friend. The first friend was very dark, satirical. Yeah, it was just a bit sort of dark comedy. Whereas this has a bit more feeling to it, a bit more story to it, a bit more uniqueness to it. But I absolutely loved it, and it's made me want to go and explore some of Banville's other works, because I have not read anything from him before. But yeah, as I said, you can tell he's been writing for a while. I wasn't surprised to find that he'd released tens of books. Yeah, just a well-structured, well-written story. Some people may find it a bit too simple in terms of winning a literary prize. You know, it's not overly literary, not like we had like the Safe Keep or The Land in Winter, even though I didn't find The Land in Winter overly literary, to be fair. Some may find the story maybe a tad predictable in places, but I didn't find that really. I mean, yes, as I said earlier, there were bits where I came across and was like, yeah, I kind of foresaw that coming, but that was built up through the story. But yeah, I'm guessing some people are going to say, yeah, it's maybe a bit too simple for them in terms of the structure and the story, but yeah, I loved it. I actually loved it. It's my favourite so far. I'm really think I'm going to struggle again this year, just like last year. The first year I did the Walter Scott Prize, there were evidently books I really liked and books that I didn't like as much. So it was a bit easier to pick a shortlist. Last year it became a bit harder because I really enjoyed, I think, 10 of the 12 books. And I feel that this year we could be on the same path as last year. I've enjoyed all three so far. I mean, this, my favourite so far. But Benbecula is stunning in its own right as well. Not just the language used, but, you know, the dark, gloomy story. And yeah, I was going to call it Ocean's Shore, Eden's Shore. Even though maybe not necessarily my cup of tea entirely, I really appreciated the adventure story there. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on Venetian Vespers. Not sure what I'm going to read next. I'm going to try and get another few done before the shortlist is announced. Probably, I don't know, what, I've got a month left until the shortlist. So it'd be nice to get another 2 or 3 done before then. But yeah, have you read any of Banville's other works? If so, let me know what your favourite. If you've read this, let me know which is kind of more like this, because I love this. Yeah, I don't know what's not to love about it. It's just, yeah, I really love the mystery surrounding what happens to Evelyn in his time in Venice, in these very short few days he's there. And yeah, I don't want to keep repeating myself because that's what I think I'm starting to do. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you've got any suggestions of what I should read next for the Walter Scott Prize, if you've read any of the other long lists, let me know, because at the moment I haven't really got plans. I've got a few of them up there. I'm just going to pick one at random. But until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.